Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Reacher Season 3. So I finally watched Reacher Season 3, and I have to say, it's a heck of a lot better than Season 2, but not as great as Season 1. There's something about Season 1 that was just so awesome. Like, it felt more grounded, it felt more personal, you felt for the supporting characters and everything. Here, I don't know. It's just there's something about the overall story of why Reacher is doing what he's doing to help out this girl named Teresa for Duffy that just doesn't seem all that personal to me like it did with the characters and supporting cast of season 1. It's also, I'm glad that it's back to being darker and a little bit grittier, but it's not as dark and gritty as season 1. The action, the killing, and watching, like, walking into a room and finding that dead body in that hotel room in season 1 is just disgusting. Here is something similar, but it's more watered down. You can tell they must have got chewed out by the censors in like season 1 because of like the blood, the dead bodies, the nudity, the sex and everything. You haven't seen nothing like that since season 1. There's still nudity in this show, but it's always just from Reacher and Reacher only, and nobody wants to see that. And it's just kind of like with the women, they just wear their bras and underwear and stuff, and it's just kind of like he can get completely butt naked, but they can't like make it equal, you know what I'm saying? And there hasn't been a sex scene since season 1. There's been love scenes, but not a sex scene. But something about season 2 I just could not get into. That's why I just never talked about it. There was so much distracting from it. There was way too many characters, way too much humor. The humor wasn't all that great. Like when Reacher kept saying, Neely, have I ever told you the smartest person I've ever known? He says it like a million times in one season. And it's just like, it's not sticking. But there was way too many sillier characters. The villain wasn't that threatening. I don't even really remember what season 2 is about, to tell you the truth. He gets a new love interest and everything. And I do appreciate when he brings in a Smallville actor. But this season, he didn't do that. And I'm like, oh, man. Also, it was really distracting because I just kept watching season 2 and I'm all like, why does this man look bigger and older than season 1? I could not understand it. And that's because season 2 takes place many years in the future and stuff, because it's based on one of the other books and stuff. I forget which book, but but then of course, Alan got like a lot bigger and thicker and muscular and everything, because I think something happened where he had like an accident or an illness and he had surgery and he lost a lot of weight because of that. So he had to bulk back up and he used testosterone training, what's it called? Testosterone therapy, that's it. And so it bulked him up really big, and it was just so distracting because I'm like, why is this dude so huge? And I couldn't understand why he looked older than that the first season. I'm like, not that much time has passed, but this dude's been working in the business for like 20 something years. So I knew he was going to age because of that. But I couldn't understand why until I found out the books are like, further along in the future and stuff. Man, I've watched this man in so many projects. He used to have a show that was short-lived on Sci-Fi, where it's like this Mad Max kind of thing, where cars would eat people. It was gross and disgusting. I could only watch the first episode. I forgot what the show is called, but the car lives on like human flesh and blood and stuff. And it was just gross. But like, yeah, season 3, from my opinion, is a heck of a lot better than season 2. It's still more personal for Reacher and stuff like that. But there are other little things in here that just kind of say like, it's just not as good as season 1. Like, I do like the characters more this season, and the humor is better, and the acting is better. But there's just something that just doesn't feel like season 1. But basically, in this season, the thing that really got me hooked is when you watch the first episode, you see Reacher. He's doing his Reacher thing, and he rescues a boy who's about to be kidnapped, a young man about like in his college age. And so he shoots a cop by mistake, and he just kind of like, oh, I can't be seen here. I need to get away from here. He cleans off his gun. The boy's all like, you gotta protect me, you gotta be my new bodyguard, blah blah. So he takes this job being like a bodyguard to this young kid named Beck. That's his last name. And so like he's there, and his dad, runs like a carpet place that, and it's just kind of like, okay, a mansion like this and bodyguards and people who kidnapped his son and chopped off his ear. It's more than just that. He's evolved in the mob somehow. And so why is Reacher gonna work for this dude? It don't make no sense. And so then at the very end, he takes off like his shoe towards the hill and reveals there's a cell phone in there, a burner type. And he tells him on the phone, I'm in. I'm all like, oh my God, he's working undercover. Brilliant and everything. And that just had me hooked. Because I was worried after season 2, you know what I'm saying? And so this book is based on Persuader. I think it's the 11th, no, I think it's the 7th book made, I think. But it's like the 11th in like the timeline and stuff. And so basically, Reacher is working for a man named Zachary Beck, who runs a carpet place. And he has like some type of underground empire. But Becker doesn't know what. Becker's working for the DEA because they found him and persuaded him to like work for them. And so he thinks he's looking for drugs, but it turns out he's actually looking for weapons. And this all started because he saw this guy he thought he killed and everything, and doesn't understand how this man's alive after so many years. So he works with the DEA and everything and undercover. And so he befriends like, Richard Beck, which is the young college student who's like dopey and everything. And so while there, he's doing a pretty good job doing the whole undercover thing. His cover almost gets blown a couple of times, which causes him to have to kill people. And when I first started watching, I'm all like, why? Why the first two? Well, actually the first three. The first person he kills is like a Hispanic guy, but it's like a pretend kill because that's like the cop that he's working with and stuff for the DEA. So he faked that dude's death. So I'm like, okay, that's a fake death, whatever. But then the first two real deaths are by black men. One's Afro-Latina and the other one is black. And I'm all like, why? Why the first two gotta be black? I'm like, you better kill some white folks up in here because he's just killing black people so far, and that's not a good look. And so like, then the next two he kills, one's white, one's black, and then he kills a bunch of like foot soldier type dudes, and they're all white, but they're like foot soldiers. And so like the main cast of like bad guys are mostly people of color. And I'm just like, so okay, so he kills. I'm glad they have diversity in here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm glad. And I don't care why there's good or bad. I don't care. I'm just glad there's diversity. But because there's so much diversity in the bad guy circle, the main characters are diverse characters. He kills 3 black people. We knew he was going to kill the Asian dude at the end. And then all the white people he killed are just regular old, like, extras who are foot soldiers and stuff. And I'm just kind of like, did somebody in the creative team not see this as like a problem when you have this big bulky white dude who's former military just like chopping down like people of color, but then the ones that are white that he kills just happen to be extras and everything. And it's not like, I guess they just didn't think about that when they did this. And, nothing against Alan Richardson, because he's actually a pretty cool dude who checks his privilege at the door. Like he said in the interview, he realizes he's a privileged white guy, in Hollywood and everything. And, he respects like people of color and understands their struggles and stuff like that. So he gets it and everything. Is his writers and creative team and casting director apparently did not get the memo and everything. But nevertheless, the action and the shootouts are really, really good and stuff. And so so while he's there, like I said, his cover nearly gets blown a couple of times, and but he also has there's another mission and stuff. There's a criminal informant who has been kidnapped and for sex trafficking, and he has to rescue her while trying to get this Xavier guy and trying to save Robert and the Becks and all this other stuff. And it just gets crazy after that. And it's I was hoping for a bunch of twists and turns, but sadly there wasn't. I was hoping that, because the thing is, when it comes to Zachary Beck, you automatically assume he's the major bad guy. His son is constantly getting kidnapped. He has this underground empire and everything. He's really rich. He has a bunch of deadly bodyguards. He makes Reacher play Russian roulette to see if he's brave enough to take on the job. So you assume he's the major bad guy, but it turns out no. He's working for the major bad guy. And in fact, he's scared of the major bad guy. And the only reason why he works for the major bad guy is because of the simple fact that if he doesn't, then the major bad guy is going to kill him and his son, and he loves his son. And it sucks that he can't be there in his son's life, because he feels like Reacher is a better father for his son than he is and stuff. So I do like that misdirect and the twist, but other than that, I was expecting more and more and more twists, but sadly, there wasn't. And so the fight scene between Reacher and Paulie was just awesome. Now, it does follow the books pretty well. Fans have said season 1 follows that book to a T. This one follows it as well, but it changes things here and there. Teresa, she's not a DEA undercover agent. She's just a criminal informant and just a regular old girl that Duffy persuades to take on this mission. And then when the girl gets kidnapped, Duffy's beside herself and pissed, and that's why she needs Reacher help and stuff like that. So that's her main motivation for doing what she's doing in this series, which it's not strong enough motivation in my opinion, but whatever. And then there is the new bad guy, who's a lot more scarier than the bad dude from season 2. However, his name doesn't fit his ethnicity. It is just weird when you look at him, so I was always expecting a different twist. Now, the black bodyguard who's kidnapped throughout the most of the season, I am glad this dude finally has something to do. I kept looking at him. I'm like, who is this guy? And thankfully, because it's on Amazon Prime, you can find out who the actors are just by scrolling up. I love that feature. Sometimes it takes me a while to finish an episode because I'm too busy looking who everybody is and stuff. But he's from Star Trek Discovery, and he did more in these 4 or 5 episodes than he ever did in Star Trek Discovery in all 5 seasons. Star Trek Discovery is the least likely Star Trek show I have ever seen to where the main cast doesn't do nothing except for one person and one person only. I've never seen a Star Trek series like that before. So I was glad he actually got to say and do stuff. And it was cool seeing Brendan Fletcher in here because, he's from Goosebumps and The Adventures of Shirley Holmes. And this dude gets those roles. And when he's standing next to both Reacher and Paulie, the dude looks like he has dwarfism. But Brendan Fletcher is actually 5'6". That's how tall these guys are, you know what I'm saying? So Alan Richardson plays that of Jack Reacher. And he's pretty much, the way he always is. This big, tall guy who wanders from city to city, only having a toothbrush and helping people out whenever they need it. He's extremely strong and extremely muscular. However, I feel like this season, just kind of like with the other seasons, but especially this season, they make this man literally too strong. Like, he is literally invincible. He can flip a car. He can pull out a giant nail from like the ceiling. I mean, like a giant one, right? As he's being hung by a metal chain. And it's just like he's on the level of Dom, Vin Diesel's character from the Fast and the Furious, and The Rock's character. He's literally that strong. And I hate seeing that in characters. So if people have a problem with the Fast and Furious movie with The Rock and Vin Diesel being superhuman strong, they should technically have a problem with this dude being that as well. Yes, granted, there are people that are that strong. Mark Henry, Braun Strowman, former WWE wrestler, and one's current. They are that strong to lift a car, and they're big and muscular as well. So yeah, I can see that while Reacher can do these things and it can be believable, but because of the Fast and Furious movies, I just have like an irritated feeling every time I see this now. But he is working for the DEA after they find him in a hotel because she wants him to find Teresa, the criminal informant. And so while there, like before this even started, he saw this man named Francis Xavier. Forget the last name, but it pretty much is just Francis Xavier. And so he sees this dude, and so he doesn't understand how this guy is still alive. But in a way, he's working to find Teresa, but they constantly keep moving her. And he needs to find out what the heck they're smuggling. He assumes it's like drugs, like I said before. So he planned all this stuff to have like, you know, Robert kidnapped only for him to stop it, and like, you know, him pretend to shoot like a cop, and the work from what's their names and stuff like that. While there, he makes a big enemy in the form of Paulie. Paulie is a heck of a lot taller and muscular than him, and when he arm wrestled Paulie, he made him smack himself in his own face. This pisses off Paulie to where he literally knocks the crap out of Reacher, to where Reacher's all like he's gonna get revenge on this guy. He just has to figure out how. But everybody else thinks that he is scared of Paulie because Paulie's a heck of a lot bigger. And I remember that was the teaser for like the trailer and everything, because the actor is really that tall and really that big. And so like while he's trying to figure out what they're smuggling and trying to find the girl, he's having to kill people along the way, like all the bad guys and stuff. When this one guy named Angel Doll like starts to figure out some of the things that Reacher is saying and doing isn't making much sense, he has to kill him and get rid of the bodies and stuff. He does have a romantic interest in that of Duffy, but it's mostly her doing all the like, you know, wanting and stuff. He's just kind of there enjoying himself. And so later on, he finally does find like Teresa. But when he finds Xavier's going by the alias of McCabe. And so it turns out that when Reacher was in like the military, this like kind of like rookie that was under him, she went undercover and stuff, and Xavier hung and killed her and stripped her of her clothes. Because of this, he shot Xavier in the head, but with a hollow round and everything, a small hollow round. And so it didn't penetrate his brain, but it lodged in his head, and it gave him amnesia, to the point where Xavier literally has no idea who Reacher is. So Reacher's main motivation is just to kill this guy, but also, you know, get Teresa. But he really wants to kill this dude, which goes against the orders of like Duffy and that of the ATF, and because they want to bring him in alive. So they have to do this thing. Well, pretty much they've been off the books the entire time, but now they're really off the books. While there, he really hates Paulie because Paulie killed an ATF agent who was like a maid that was really nice to Reacher there. And so the fight between him and Paulie is just awesome. It lasted for about 5, 8 minutes, something like that. And it was really, really, really pound for pound. But I was shocked and surprised to find Reacher kept cheating all throughout that fight. He would choke the man with like a leather belt strap. He would hit him with like weapons. Um, he rigged a gun to like backfire and pretty much blow the neck out of Paulie and everything. And I truly believe Reacher really was scared. That's why he didn't fight that guy fair and everything. But it's also nice to see him befriend that of Robert, who's just a snail of a guy, a slug and everything, who has no self-confidence and is constantly getting picked on by people and feel like his dad just doesn't love him. But in the end, he does kill like Xavier and stuff. So Duffy is the like person in charge who's running this operation. She works for the DEA, and she is doing this completely off the books because she persuaded Teresa to like be an informant. Basically, she threatened her with jail time and threatened her loved ones, you know, typical cop stuff. The Duffy character is interesting because she fits every cop trope that you ever see in a TV show and a movie. She's headstrong. She doesn't take no crap from nobody. She is determined. She'll do whatever it takes to get the mission done. But they also add in some modern tropes of that might irritate some people. But these tropes are still relevant in male cops too, but with a slight difference. See, the problem I have with her is that she's like, normally when you have like a headstrong cop, they're rude to like everybody. So that's typical, like in a male cop, you know, but they're also nice to some people. Here, she's only rude to men and men only. She's completely nice to every female, and there's only about 5 or 6 females altogether, but she only interacts with like 3 of them. And so she's nice to all the females, but she is extremely rude and nasty to every man in this show. But she's a bit nicer to Reacher only because she's turned on by his body, and she's nice to her partner because he's kind of like her mentor. But she will sass him and everything and joke around with him in a rude kind of way. And she'll get rude from time to time with Reacher, but she pretty much just uses him for sex, for his body and everything, because she doesn't like relationships and everything. And it's always her initiating the kissing, and that he never does it. So it seems like she is the dominant person in that relationship. And it's one time he's just laying in bed all nonchalant, and she just kisses him on the lip like he's so docile and everything. But the problem I have with her being this like overbearing lady boss, I don't have a problem with her having an attitude because she is that headstrong cop and she is a strong female. But the problem is, if they would have had her be nicer to one of the guys or just be rude to a female, that would have balanced everything out. But it's not balanced because she's only rude to men and men only, like the rookie who's working for her. He's your typical stupid rookie cop who gets everything wrong, and she's all like, he's a nice guy, but how in the world did he become a cop? Well, he ends up getting his like killed by like one of the bodyguards and everything. And then she feels terrible, but she lies to his father about why he took this mission and how brave he was and everything. Because that's what she does. She lies to get what she wants and everything. She lied to Teresa. She lied to Teresa's grandmother, or mother, I can't tell which it is. And she lied to her department head about why she took on this case and everything until she finally had to confess and come clean. And so I like how she's tough and I like how she's determined, but I hate how they gave her the modern female trope of being mean and rude to every man and nice to like every female. There needed to be some sort of balance with that. And like there was something else about her that I can't think of right now because I hear a lawnmower and it's distracting me because I have tinnitus. Other than her being rude and stuff, If I can think about it later on, and I'll say. Oh, now I remember her motivation in all this. I understand it and it's noble, but she literally risked her badge, her partner's badge, the rookie's life, everybody else's life to save this one girl who's like a drug addict and stuff. All because she's her informant and she got her tangled up in the mob. And now the girl's gonna be sold into sex slavery and everything. I get it, it's noble, but she risked all of this just for that. But yeah, but in the books, it's different. The informant is actually an undercover DEA agent and stuff. But there's one thing about Duffy that's really odd and could have went really sideways. Is like her sexual relationship with Reacher. So she's turned on by like his body, right? That's fine. And so like she's always the one kissing him first without his permission. Now, let's not forget, this is a post-Me Too era, and this is supposed to be like a no-no, remember? Women don't like it when men do this, so why are we seeing a woman do this? But not only that, but it's her reaction afterwards that's bizarre. She kisses him passionately, only to like push him off really hard and start shouting and cussing at him, talking about this will never happen again, and blah blah blah, and it's making her seem like he's the one initiated and took advantage of her. And it's like, what the heck? Did I fall asleep and just like wake up to something odd? She initiated this. She's the one who did all this, but she's acting like he's the bad guy for like, I guess, allowing her to kiss him. Or it's like, what the heck is going on? Then of course they sleep together later on, only for her to give him the whole, I don't do like, the couple thing, and it's a one and done thing, and if you're ever back in town, give me a call. And he's all like, well, I'm the same way and everything. But it's like, he never states that. Like most guys, they don't state that, they just like do it. But for her to state the obvious, like, this is just like a one night stand type thing, I get my kicks in and now I'm out, it makes her seem even worse than what she did when she kissed him and then pushed him off and started screaming at him like he assaulted her or something. It's really weird. And that topped with her always being rude to, I sound like I'm talking louder because of these earplugs in my ear. But that topped with her being rude to every guy is gonna cause so many people to be all like, oh, here's another strong female empowerment and wokeness and blah 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 blah, and the lady boss. And they should have toned her character down. Her partner's name, whose name I literally can't pronounce. I can't pronounce the first, I can't pronounce the second. He's a really nice guy who brings in some comic relief here and there. He's Duffy's mentor and stuff, and he helps Reacher out. Basically with him is that he's risking his life for this girl as well to help Duffy out. And his wife literally wants him to just retire. Like, he's very, very close to retiring. And so he gets his reward at the end when he finally goes back home to that of his wife. He has a really cool fight scene where he's fighting this one guy and they're in the bathroom and he's getting his butt kicked and he's bloody and the other guy is just whooping his behind. And so he makes the guy throw his gun in the toilet, but then there are like haircut clippers that are plugged up and he tosses it in the toilet. So when the guy goes to reach for his gun, he's getting electrocuted and stuff. So Maria Stern comes back as Neely and everything, and she kind of has a role like she does in season 1 where she's barely in this show, and then he calls her up for like help because she's a PI, and then she later comes in to help him shoot up some bad guys. And she is awesome in this season, and I just love, like, I wish she was in it more like she was in season 2, but this season she's just like awesome. Every time she fights like a bad guy, she always has like an awesome scene. Because he has her looking into Xavier, Xavier has his men look for everybody that goes like looking for him. So she's one of the people. And so she's in like her little computer laboratory room, and she's using her equipment to like distract the bad guys as she's shooting them up. Well, one left alive but wounded. He's near the refrigerator, and she just leaves him on the floor as she's fixing cereal and making him move and all this other stuff. And he can barely move because he's shot up, and he's all like, "Call me an ambulance, please." But she's just so awesome in this. Now she's getting her own spin-off, and because of that, Reacher season 4 is going to be delayed. Richard Beck, he's just a slump of like a college student. He has no spine, and I don't mean like he has like no literal spine. Like he's just spineless, you know. He has no self-confidence. He's not tough. He constantly getting picked on by like other like students, and Reacher is the only person who not only tells him how it is, like, dude, you can never get a girl like that because, you know, the way you are, but he teaches him how to fight and have self-confidence and all this other crap because, you know, the dude got kidnapped and his ear chopped off, and he hates his dad for that. But his dad, the reason why he didn't pay that ransom or whatever, allowed the ear to get chopped off, because if he didn't, the boy would be like dead and everything. He doesn't think his father loves him, but he really does. But then he tries to buy his dad this antique gun, which a guy breaks. And so he used some epoxy glue to like fix it, but then that eventually get his dad shot up and everything. But it's just like he's just one of those really geeky, nerdy guys who has no self-confidence whatsoever. And he feels like everybody is against him. When he finds out Reacher's really working for the DEA people, he's kind of, first he's a little worried about that, but he's okay and does not rat him out. The bad guy makes him play Russian roulette with his father, and if he doesn't, he's going to end up killing him anyway. So he literally has to. He puts that gun to his head, constantly clicking it for the enjoyment of like the bad guy and the detriment of his father. At the end, because now that the DEA is going to seize his house and his dad's assets, he takes all the money that he can, and he just does like Reacher, just drives off into the sunset and live his life from town to town. Zachary Beck is his father, and he has a carpet business, and he works for the bad guy. Basically, he doesn't want to, but he has to, because if he doesn't, his son will die. But he does give in to this whole mobster mentality of everything because he likes the perks that come with it, but he's terrified of all the bad guys. Basically, he ends up trying to stop the bad guys from killing him and his son, but with that gun and the epoxy glue, the shaft part of it starts to like fall off, and then this is what causes Xavier to shoot him up. I do like that, you know, the whole misdirect. You assume this dude is really bad, really evil, but he has a really kind, sweethearted nature side to him because he loves his son. Okay, so Francis Xavier and Julius McCabe. So they are one and the same. And the actor who plays him doesn't make sense because he's Asian, but he has two white guys' names. So this makes me think they race bent the character probably, which this don't make no sense, the name. Yeah, there are Irish like Asian people, but he's not Irish. So anyways, Francis Xavier. Reacher knows him from the past. He's like this drug smuggler and stuff like that. There was this woman named Dominic who was a rookie, and she helped Reacher bring him down. And so when the girl went undercover, he found out, and he had her killed and hung and stripped of her clothes. This pissed Reacher off to the point where he took him outside and shot him point blank in the head, and he fell over in the water. This caused him to have amnesia, and since all his bank accounts are now frozen, he had to do deals with like the Russian mob and everything. So he uses Zachary's business as like, you know, a cover and everything. He is very, very like evil and stuff, to the point where he literally makes Robert play Russian roulette with his father and stuff just for all of his amusement. He doesn't care who he kills, but he has a comedic side to him, to where every time he gets caught, he tries to weasel his way out of it and stuff, you know? And I do like that even though he is this evil bad guy, he's terrified of the Russian mob, you know what I'm saying? And so when it's a funny line when Reacher at the end is ready to kill him, he's all like, I literally have no idea who you are. And he's all like, you know, he mentions the name Dominic. And right then and there, all his memories come back and he remembers exactly who Reacher is. And Reacher just shoots him point blank again and makes sure he's dead. I wish they could have done more with his death. Like, you know, um, like something brutal, but I guess they saved that for Paulie. And the reason why with the whole Teresa thing, see, originally he was just supposed to, like, you know, get money from the Russians and, like, you know, smuggle some like guns with that of like Zachary. But then when he found out that Teresa is an informant, he saw that she's a redhead and one of his clients that he plans on selling to likes redhead. So that's how she got involved with the whole sex traffic thing and stuff like that. So yeah, like I said before, season 3 might not be as great as season 1, but it's a heck of a lot better than that of season 2. It's not as grounded as season 1, but it's like personal, like on a personal level, just like season 1 was. And that's something that's the heart of this show, because with all the killing and the nudity and the sex and, you know, the revenge and this and that, you need that personal story to make your heroes more grounded and more realistic, you know. And I honest to God forget what even happened in season 2. I kind of want to block that out in my mind and everything, you know, and pretend like it just never happened. But yeah, like the action, the humor, the acting, the characters were just so much more better this season going around. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.